phone that's curved like this. Also, bonus, there is no Verizon tramp stamp anywhere on this phone. Props to that. So overall, the Turbo is really well built like previous Droids, and it feels really durable, really solid to hold in the hand. And it has some slight curving, like I said, near the edges that make it feel less like a brick, and also the edges of the glass are curved a bit as well, so the corners aren't sharp. And the power and volume buttons are both textured. Also, fun fact, the SIM card tray sits behind the volume keys, so you actually have to remove the volume buttons to change your SIM card. But overall, this thing is built like a tank. And speaking of curved glass, that brings us to number 2, and that's the display on the front. The Droid Turbo is rocking a 5.2-inch Quad HD display, so 2560 by 1440 resolution at 565 pixels per inch. And it's an OLED display, and it's razor sharp. So basically what I'm saying here is it rivals the Note 4 for one of the best screens on any phone, and we're not just saying that because of the number. It's great. It gets really bright. It has awesome colors. Very deep blacks because it's OLED. It doesn't color shift nearly as much as the Nexus 6 when you dim it all the way. And overall, it's a beautiful panel for using the OS, web browsing, using apps, taking photos, videos, watching YouTube, whatever. Actually, the Turbo is one of the first phones I got to use the new YouTube app on, which let me watch videos in frickin' 1440p. So it looks really super crispy. Now, a lot of people will have complaints that Quad HD is just too much on a phone or even unnecessary. We keep hearing that, as it could take a hit on battery life. So let's just jump right into that. Number 3 is the battery. Now the Turbo has a 3900 milliamp hour battery. 3,900 milliamp hours, that's massive. So you can see it's not exactly a thin device. It's 11.2 millimeters thick, and it's got some curves, you know. There's no dimple on the back anymore. It's just a big flat battery in the back. And inside, the Snapdragon 805 and Adreno 420 are more than capable enough to run this software smoothly on the Quad HD display. So this combination of hardware has the Droid Turbo lasting still a long time on battery. Now, it doesn't last longer than the best of the 1080p phones out there, as you'd expect, despite having a huge battery, but it is pushing extra pixels, and it gives you an awesome media experience for an extra long time. So 5.5 hours of screen on time is what I get all the time on this, when I'm usually getting about 6 on the OnePlus One, which is probably the best of any 1080p phone. So that's really front. It would last even longer, but I think this is a nice trade-off, and it's a pretty good balancing act, and I'm very impressed, once again, with the battery life of a Motorola smartphone. Now, the last major change for the Droid Turbo versus the Moto X is the new camera. The Turbo's rocking an impressive 21 megapixel camera with dual LED flash, and let me tell you, it is a huge improvement over the Moto X, and it's actually the best camera Motorola has ever put in a phone. Not just because of the number, 21 megapixels, but it's actually a really good camera. A great sensor, sharpness is on point as you would expect, colors and dynamic range are decent. It's not over-sharpened or over-processed like, say, a Galaxy S5 or Note 4 photo, but the images you get out of it look pleasing. It takes 4K video, and it's a really high-quality, relatively noise-free image in anything but the worst lighting. So overall, when you take a step back and look at all the changes between the Droid Turbo when you compare with the Moto X, pretty much everything I've mentioned might imply it is. And I don't really think you can go wrong between the two, but if we're placing bets on which one gets lollipop,